Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the USS Liberty, watching the endless black of space through the main viewing screen. The ship had been out here for 3 months now, mapping star systems at the edge of human territory. It was quiet work, but Jake liked it that way. No politics, no rush, just him and his crew doing what humans did best, exploring the unknown. "Captain, I'm picking up something strange on long-range sensors," said Pete Collins from the navigation station. Pete was young, maybe 25, with short brown hair and the kind of excitement in his voice that meant he had found something interesting. Jake walked over to Pete's station and looked at the readings. "What am I looking at?" "Energy signatures, sir. Big ones. And they're moving fast toward our position." Dr. Lisa Park looked up from her science station. She was the ship's xenobiologist, smart woman in her 30s who had joined this mission hoping to find signs of alien life. So far, they had found plenty of planets, but no aliens. "How big are we talking about?" she asked. Pete's fingers moved quickly over his controls. "Really big, Doc. These readings are off the charts. Whatever is coming our way, it's massive." Amy Watson, the ship's chief engineer, walked onto the bridge carrying a cup of coffee. She was a practical woman who could fix anything that broke and usually did it while making jokes. "Did someone say massive? Are we finally going to meet some?" "Aliens, maybe," Jake said. He turned to Dan Riley at the communications station. Dan was quiet most of the time, but he was the best comm officer Jake had ever worked with. "Dan, are you picking up any signals?" "Nothing yet, Captain, but ... Dan stopped and pressed his hand to his earpiece. "Wait, I'm getting something now. It's in English." Everyone on the bridge turned to look at Dan. Jake felt his heart beat a little faster. "English? Are you sure?" "Yes, sir. Perfect English. And it's coming from whatever is approaching us." Jake looked around at his crew. They all had the same look on their faces, a mix of excitement and worry. This was it. This was first contact with an alien species. After all these years of wondering if humans were alone in the universe, they were about to get their answer. "Put it on speakers," Jake said. The bridge filled with static for a moment, then a deep voice came through the speakers. The voice was strange, like it was coming from a throat that was not quite human, but the words were clear. "Tension. Primitive species of Scifi. You have been discovered by the mighty Galactic Empire." Jake looked at Pete, who shrugged. Amy raised an eyebrow. Lisa leaned forward in her chair. The voice continued. "I am Admiral Zextel of the Imperial Fleet. Your pathetic civilization has reached the attention of the Empire. You will prepare for immediate subjugation." Amy snorted. "Subjugation? Did he really just say subjugation?" "Oh, Jake said. But he was trying not to smile. "Your primitive technology is no match for our superior forces." The alien voice went on. "Resistance is futile. You will bow before the might of the Galactic Empire and serve as our slaves." That did it. Psst. Pete started laughing first, just a small chuckle. Then Amy joined in. Within seconds, Lisa was giggling, and Dan was shaking his head with a big grin on his face. Jake tried to keep a straight face, but it was no use. The laughter was contagious. Soon, the entire bridge crew was laughing so hard that tears were running down their faces. "Oh my God," Amy said between laughs. "Did he actually say resistance is futile? That's from Star Trek? The whole bow before us thing?" Pete added. "It's like every bad alien movie ever made." Lisa wiped tears from her eyes. "God, I can't believe it. Our first contact with aliens, and they're using lines from our own science fiction." The alien voice came through the speakers again, sounding confused. "Humans of Scifi, explain your strange behavior. Do you not understand the gravity of this situation?" Jake walked over to Dan's station and took the microphone. He tried to get his laughter under control, but every time he thought about what the alien had said, he started giggling again. "Sorry, Admiral," Jake said into the microphone. "It's just... Did you really just tell us that resistance is futile? I mean, seriously." There was silence from the other end. Then the alien voice came back, sounding even more confused. "This is the standard protocol for first contact with primitive species. You should be afraid?" "Afraid?" Amy called out from her station. "Dude, you sound like every cartoon villain I watched as a kid." Pete pulled up a screen and started typing. Captain, I'm running a quick search through our entertainment database. Want to see how many times aliens have used that exact same speech? Go ahead, Jake, said numbers started flashing on Pete's screen. Okay, so far I've found resistance. Is feudal in 847 different movies, TV shows, books, and games. The bow before us line appears in 1,205 different stories. And your primitive technology shows up in 2,891 different pieces of human fiction. The bridge erupted in laughter again. Lisa was holding her sides, and Dan was banging his fist on his console. It's Admiral Zextel, Jake said into the microphone. I hate to break it to you, but humans have been imagining this exact conversation for about 100 years. You're basically reading from a script that our science fiction writers created. What is this science fiction you speak of? The alien voice asked. Oh boy, Lisa said. They don't know what fiction is. Jake looked around at his crew. They were still smiling, but now they looked interested too.
Hi.
This was getting better by the minute. Admiral Jake said, I think we need to have a longer conversation. See, humans have this thing called imagination. Admiral Zextal stared at the communication screen in his command chamber aboard the Imperial flagship. His large reptilian eyes blinked slowly as he tried to understand what had just happened. In his 200 years of military service, he had delivered the standard first contact protocol to over 50 different species. Not once had any of them responded with laughter. Strategic Commander Vexstar, he called to his second-in-command. Vexter was a tall, thin alien with blue skin and 4 arms. He had been with Zextel for decades and had never seen anything like this either. Yes, Admiral. Are our translation systems working properly? The humans seemed to find our message amusing rather than terrifying. Vexstar checked his instruments. All systems are functioning normally, sir. The translation matrix is operating at full capacity. Perhaps this species laughs when they are afraid. Science Officer Quindell, a floating jellyfish-like creature with glowing tentacles, drifted over to their conversation. That is possible, Admiral. Some species have unusual fear responses. The Zephyrians of Sector 7 turn purple when scared. The crystalline beings of Altair make singing sounds. Admiral Zextel nodded slowly. This made sense. Every species was different. The humans must have some strange biological reaction to terror. Open a channel again. We will continue with the protocol. Back on the USS Liberty, Captain Jake Morrison was still wiping tears from his eyes when Dan Riley announced that the aliens were calling again. Put them through, Jake said, trying to sound professional. The same alien voice came through the speakers, but this time it sounded slightly less confident. Humans of South 3, we understand that your species may have unusual reactions to stress. We will now demonstrate our superior firepower to help you understand your situation. Amy Watson burst out laughing again. Kono, they think we laugh when we're scared. Dr. Lisa Parks stood up from her science station and walked over to Jake. Captain, I think we need to explain this to them. They clearly don't understand what just happened. Pete Collins looked up from his navigation controls. Should I record this? I mean, this is probably the most important conversation in human history, and it started with us laughing at aliens. Good idea, Jake said. Then he spoke into the microphone. Admiral Zexel, we're not laughing because we're afraid. We're laughing because what you just said is exactly what aliens say in our entertainment stories. There was a long pause.
Ow.
Then the alien voice came back, sounding confused. Entertainment stories? What is this? Lisa stepped forward and gestured. For Jake to give her the microphone, as the ship's xenobiologist, she was probably the best person to explain human culture to aliens. Admiral, this is Dr. Lisa Park. I study alien life, though you're the first real aliens I've met. Let me explain something about humans. We create stories for fun. Imagine things that never happened and turn them into books, movies, and games. You create ... false information ... for enjoyment. The alien sounded completely baffled. Not false information exactly. We call it fiction. We make up stories about space travel, aliens, robots, future technology, all kinds of things. And in many of these stories, aliens arrive at Earth and say, exactly what you just said to us. Amy had pulled up her personal tablet and was scrolling through video files. Hey Doc, Want me to show them some examples? It's a great idea. Lisa turned back to the microphone. Admiral, we're going to send you some examples of our fiction. These are stories humans created about meeting aliens. Dan worked at his console for a moment. Okay, I'm sending over some video files. Basic stuff. Independence Day, War of the Worlds, a few Star Trek episodes, some Star Wars clips. On the Imperial flagship, the aliens watched the human entertainment with growing confusion. Admiral Zextal saw massive alien ships arriving at primitive planets. He heard aliens delivering ultimatums about surrender and subjugation. What's humans fighting back against superior technology and winning? This is ... disturbing, he said to his officers. They've imagined our arrival before we came. How is this possible? Science Officer Quindell's tentacles glowed brighter as she processed the information. Admiral, look at the dates on these files. Some of these stories are over 100 years old. The humans have been imagining alien contact for a very long time. Strategic Commander Vexstar was studying the tactical information in the human stories, sir. They have imagined every approach we might use. Superior firepower, psychological warfare, technological demonstrations, even biological weapons. And in most of their stories, the aliens lose. Admiral Zextal felt something he had never experienced before in his long military career. He felt uncertain. Get me cultural analyst Nixara. We need to understand these humans better. Nixara was a small, furry creature with large eyes and 6 legs. She was an expert in studying the cultures of conquered species. When she arrived at the command chamber, she was already carrying a datapad full of information about humans. Admiral, I have been studying their communication networks. These humans have created millions of stories about alien contact. They have imagined every possible scenario. They have even created detailed plans for fighting alien invaders. Plans for fighting us? Yes, sir. They call it military science fiction. They have written detailed manuals about fighting aliens, using alien technology, and defending their planet from invasion. Some of their military leaders have actually studied these fictional scenarios. Back on the USS Liberty, the crew was having the time of their lives. Captain Morrison had never expected first contact to be this entertaining. Captain Pete said, I'm getting messages from other human ships in the area. Word is spreading fast about our alien visitors. Earth Command wants a full report. Amy was still scrolling through human science fiction on her tablet. You know? What's funny? We've got stories about friendly aliens too. But apparently these guys went straight for the we come in peace to conquer you approach. Lisa was analyzing the alien ship formations on her sensors. Jake, take a look at this. Their ships are arranged in a standard intimidation formation. Big ships in front, smaller ships behind. It's exactly like the formation the bad guys use in Battlefleet Gothic. Battlefleet Gothic? It's a game Pete plays. You command space, fleets, and fight battles. The point is, even their military tactics are stuff we've seen before in our games. Jake shook his head in amazement. So, let me get this straight. These aliens showed up to scare us with technology, tactics, and speeches that we've been using in our entertainment for decades? That's about right, Amy said. It's like they bought the How to Be a Space Villain handbook from our fiction section. The communication system crackled to life again. Admiral Zextal's voice came through, but now he sounded much less confident than before. Humans, we... We need to discuss this further. Your response to our arrival is... unprecedented. Jake grinned at his crew. Admiral, I think that discussion is going to be very interesting. See, we've been preparing for this conversation our whole lives. Admiral Zextal paced back and forth in his command chamber, his heavy footsteps echoing off the metal floor. For the first time in his long career, he felt completely lost. The humans had sent over hundreds of files containing their fictional stories, and his crew had been studying them for hours. He barked at cultural analyst Nix. The small, furry alien looked up from her data screens with wide, frightened eyes. Admiral, this is worse than we thought. The humans have not just imagined alien contact, they've imagined every single technique we use for conquest and domination. Science Officer Quindell floated closer, her tentacles dim with worry. Sir, I have analyzed their entertainment database. They have 47,000 different stories about alien invasions. In 89% of these stories, the aliens lose. Strategic Commander Vextar's forearms moved nervously as he pulled up tactical displays. Admiral, they have detailed fictional accounts of every military strategy we employ. Mass fleet formations, planetary bombardment, technological superiority, demonstrations, surrender ultimatums. They have seen it all before. Zextal stopped pacing and stared at the main screen, which showed the small human ship floating peacefully in space. How is this possible? How can a species imagine things that have never happened to them? That is the problem, sir, Nixara said quietly. They do not just imagine random things. They imagine scenarios, and then figure out how to solve them. They create problems in their stories, and then create solutions. They have been practicing for our arrival without knowing it. Meanwhile, aboard the USS Liberty, the crew was discovering just how much fun first contact could be. Captain Jake Morrison had never seen his people so excited. "Captain, you need to see this," Amy Watson called from her engineering station. She had been analyzing the alien ship designs while the others studied their cultural files. "I've been looking at their technology through our sensors." Jake walked over to Amy's station. "What did you find?" "Their ships are big, but they're not as advanced as they think they are. Look at these power readings. They're using fusion reactors that are maybe 50 years ahead of our current models. But we've got experimental designs that are already better than what they're flying." Dr. Lisa Park looked up from her science station where she had been studying the alien biology data. Amy's right. And from what I can tell from their transmissions, their technology hasn't changed much in a very long time. They've been using the same basic designs for centuries. Pete Collins spun around in his navigation chair. "That makes sense. If you're the biggest, strongest guy in the galaxy, why would you need to keep getting stronger?" "They probably stopped innovating because they didn't have to." Dan Riley, who had been monitoring communication channels, raised his hand. "Captain, I'm getting calls from Earth. Word about our alien visitors is spreading fast. The news networks want interviews and social media is going crazy." Jake nodded. "What are people saying?" "Well, sir, the general reaction seems to be the same as ours. People are laughing. The most popular meme right now is a picture of the alien ship with the caption, 'We come in peace to destroy you, original dialogue, do not steal.'" Amy burst out laughing. "Oh no, they're getting memed. That's gotta hurt." Lisa was still studying the alien data when something caught her attention. "Guys, I think I found something important. Look at their cultural files. They don't seem to have any fiction at all. No made-up stories, no imagination-based entertainment. Everything in their database is historical records, technical manuals, and conquest reports." "What do you mean?" Jake asked. "I mean, they literally don't understand what fiction is. They've never created stories just for fun. They've never imagined scenarios that didn't happen. They've never asked what-if questions just to see where they might lead. The implications hit everyone at the same time." Was the first to speak. "Holy cow. They've been conquering the galaxy with the same playbook for hundreds of years, because they never imagined any other way to do it." Amy shook her head in amazement. "And we've been imagining every possible way to fight aliens since before we even knew aliens existed." On the Imperial flagship, Admiral Zextal was discovering the same thing from the other direction. His officers had been analyzing human culture and technology, and the results were disturbing. Admiral Strategic Commander Vextar said, "I have completed my analysis of human military capabilities. They are not as primitive as we assumed. Explain." "Their space program is only 200 years old, but they have advanced faster than any species in our records. They went from first flight to interstellar travel in less than 300 years. Most species take 2,000 years to reach that level." Science Officer Quindle's tentacles glowed with excitement despite the troubling news. "Sir, their rate of technological advancement is extraordinary. Improve their technology constantly, not just when they need to solve a specific problem. They seem to advance just for the sake of advancing." "That's impossible," Zextal said. "Why would a species develop new technology if their current technology works fine?" Cultural analyst Nixara looked up from her studies. "Admiral, I believe it is connected to their fiction. They imagine better technology, and then they try to build it. They create problems in their stories, and then they solve those problems. In real life, their imagination drives their innovation. The Admiral felt a chill run down his spine. Are you saying that their ability to create false stories makes them more advanced? Not false stories, sir. Possible stories. They imagine what could happen, and then they prepare for it. They have been preparing for us for over a century. Back on the Liberty, Captain Morrison was receiving an urgent message from Earth Defense Command. Admiral Kate Young appeared on the screen, and Jake could see she was struggling to keep a professional expression. Captain Morrison, I need a full report on the alien contact situation. Also, I need to know if you're aware that your conversation with the aliens has been broadcast across the entire human communication network. Jake blinked. Broadcast? How? Someone recorded your initial exchange and posted it online. It's gone viral. The video of you and your crew laughing at the alien ultimatum has been viewed 500 million times in the last 3 hours. Amy looked over at Jake. We're famous, Admiral Young continued. The reaction across human space has been ... enthusiastic. People are making jokes, creating memes, and generally treating this as the best entertainment we've had in years. However, we need to remember that these are still aliens with superior firepower. We need to be careful. Dr. Park stepped forward. Admiral Young, I don't think we need to worry about their firepower. From what we've seen, they're not as advanced as they think they are. And more importantly, they have no idea how to deal with a species that isn't afraid of them. On the alien ship, Admiral Zextal was receiving reports from across the galaxy. Other species had heard about the human encounter, and the reaction was not what he expected. Sir, Communication Officer Dexmo reported, we are receiving messages from 17 different member species. They all want to know about the humans who laughed at the Empire. What kind of messages? Requests for information, sir. They want to know how the humans were able to respond to our ultimatum with laughter. Some of them are asking if the humans are accepting new diplomatic partners. Admiral Zextal realized that something fundamental had changed. For the first time in the Empire's history, another species was not afraid of them, and that lack of fear was spreading to other species across the galaxy. Strategic Commander, he said quietly, I believe we may have made a serious error in our approach to these humans. What kind of error, sir? We assumed they were primitive. We assumed they would be afraid. We assumed they would surrender like everyone else. He paused and looked at the image of the small human ship on his screen. I think we may have just met our match. Admiral Zextal had reached his limit. The humans' laughter was bad enough. But now other species across the galaxy were asking questions about why the mighty Empire couldn't handle one small human ship. His reputation was at stake, and more importantly, the Empire's reputation was crumbling. Enough, he growled to his officers. We will demonstrate our power. As humans will learn to fear us like every other species. Strategic Commander Vexstar pointed at the tactical display. Admiral, there is a large asteroid approximately 1 million kilometers from the human ship. We could use it for a demonstration. Perfect. Zextal activated the fleet communication system. All ships prepare for demonstration of Imperial firepower. Target the asteroid designated Alpha 7. Full power, all weapons. On the USS Liberty, Captain Jake Morrison watched as the massive alien fleet began moving into formation. The ships were truly impressive. Some were larger than anything humans had ever built, covered in weapons and gleaming with energy shields. Captain, Pete Collins said from his navigation station, they're positioning themselves around that big asteroid. I think they're going to blow it up. Amy Watson looked up from her engineering console. Classic intimidation move. Show off the big guns to scare the primitives. Dr. Lisa Park was recording everything for her scientific report. This should be interesting. Let's see what their weapons can actually do. The Imperial fleet opened. Fire all at once. Hundreds of energy beams, plasma cannons, and missile weapons struck the asteroid simultaneously. The space rock, which had been about 5 kilometers across, disappeared in a brilliant flash of light and energy. Where it had been, only glowing debris remained. Admiral Zextal felt satisfied for the first time since this encounter began. Open a channel to the humans. His voice came through the Liberty's speakers with renewed confidence. Humans, you have witnessed the power of the Galactic Empire. That asteroid was completely destroyed by our weapons. Your small ship would not survive even one of our cannons. Do you now understand your situation? Captain Morrison looked around at his crew. They were all watching him, waiting to see how he would respond. Jake had to admit the alien firepower was impressive, but something Amy had said earlier was bothering him. That was a nice light show, Admiral, Jake said into the microphone. Very impressive. Hey, Amy, what did we bring for the mining operation? Amy Watson grinned and turned to her console. Well, Captain, we've got the new experimental fusion torch. It's designed for precision asteroid mining, but I suppose we could show it off. Go ahead. Amy's fingers danced over her controls. USS Liberty turned toward another asteroid, this one about twice the size of the one the aliens had destroyed. A beam of pure energy extended from the ship's hull, but instead of destroying the asteroid, it began carving through it like a knife through butter. The crew watched as Amy used the fusion torch to cut the asteroid into perfect geometric shapes, cubes, spheres, and pyramids. The precision was incredible. Not a single piece of debris flew off into space. Everything was controlled, measured, and exact. This is just our mining equipment, Amy said cheerfully over the open channel. We use it to harvest resources from asteroids. It's much more efficient than just blowing things up. On the Imperial flagship, Admiral Zexthal stared at the display in shock. The human ship had just demonstrated technology that was far more advanced than anything his fleet possessed. The precision and power control required for that kind of operation was beyond Imperial capabilities. Science officer, he said quietly, analyze that beam. Science officer Quindell's tentacles were glowing brightly as she worked at her instruments. Admiral, the energy output is approximately 3 times greater than our most powerful weapons, but it's completely controlled. They can focus it to the width of a single molecule or spread it across several kilometers. Strategic Commander Vexstar was studying the tactical implications. Sir, if they can do that to an asteroid, they could slice our ships apart piece by piece. Meanwhile, Pete Collins had been running scans of the alien fleet while everyone was focused on the demonstration. What he found made his eyes go wide. Captain, you need to see this, Pete said urgently. Jake walked over to the navigation station. What is it? I've been scanning their ships while they were distracted. Captain, their technology is really old. I mean, really old. How old? Pete pulled up technical readouts on his screen. Their ships are running on fusion reactors that use deuterium-tritium reactions. That's basic fusion technology. Stopped using that design 50 years ago. Amy looked over from her station. What are they using for propulsion? Chemical rockets. For sublight speeds and some kind of basic hyperspace jump drive for long distances? Captain, our garbage collection ships have better engines than their warships. Dr. Lisa Park was analyzing the biological data from the alien transmissions. It makes sense. If you're the dominant power in the galaxy for centuries, you don't need to keep improving your technology. You just use what works. Jake felt a strange mix of disappointment and excitement. So what you're telling me is that humanity's first contact with aliens, and we're more advanced than they are? That's exactly what I'm telling you, Pete said. The communication system crackled to life again. Admiral Zexthal's voice came through, but now it sounded much less confident than before. Humans, your mining equipment, is quite sophisticated. Perhaps we should discuss terms of cooperation rather than surrender. Amy burst out laughing. Did he just try to change the subject from conquest to cooperation before Jake could respond? Don Riley announced that more ships were approaching. Captain, I'm detecting multiple human vessels entering the system. It looks like Earth Defense Command sent reinforcements. 3 ships dropped out of hyperspace near the Liberty. The UES Intrepid, a heavy cruiser under Commander Rick Stone. The research vessel US Horizon, with Dr. Susan Blake, and the Defense ship used Defiant, commanded by Captain Maria Santos. Commander Stone's voice came over the communication channel. Captain Morrison, this is Commander Stone. We're here to provide support for the first contact situation. Good timing, Commander, Jake replied. We were just having a discussion about technology with our new alien friends. Captain Santos had been listening to the conversation. Captain Morrison, did I hear correctly that these aliens just tried to intimidate us with weapons that are less powerful than our mining equipment? That's about right, Captain Santos. Dr. Susan Blake from the Horizon had been scanning the alien fleet. Fascinating. Captain Morrison, I'm reading massive energy signatures from their ships, but the technology appears to be quite primitive. By our standards. It's like they built everything bigger instead of better. On the Imperial flagship, Admiral Zextal was receiving reports from his officers that made his situation worse by the minute. Admiral Communication Officer Dexmel reported. The humans have been broadcasting their conversation with us across their entire communication network. The other species in our empire are receiving these transmissions. What are they saying? Of them are expressing ... curiosity ... about human technology. Several have requested direct communication with the human ships. Strategic Commander Vexstar looked up from his tactical analysis. Admiral, I have completed my assessment of the human reinforcements. All 4 human ships have technology that surpasses our fleet capabilities. Science Officer Quindell's tentacles were dim with worry. Sir, I believe we have made a critical error. We assumed these humans were primitive because they had not contacted us. But they had not contacted us because they did not know we existed, not because they were incapable of space travel. Admiral Zextal realized that everything had changed. For the first time in Imperial history, they had encountered a species that was not only unafraid of them, but actually more advanced than they were. Open a channel to the human ships, he said quietly. Channel open, sir. Admiral Zextal took a deep breath and spoke words he had never thought he would say. Human vessels, I am Admiral Zextal of the Galactic Empire, I believe. We may have misunderstood your capabilities. Perhaps we could discuss the situation more diplomatically. Captain Morrison smiled at his crew. Admiral, I think that's the best idea you've had since you got here. Captain Jake Morrison found himself in the strangest situation of his life. Here he was, sitting in his captain's chair aboard the USS Liberty, about to give an ultimatum to the most powerful military force in the galaxy. The irony was not lost. On him, are you really going to do this? Amy Watson asked from her engineering station. She was grinning from ear to ear. Are you actually going to give them the villain speech? Why not? Jake replied. They started it. Commander Rick Stone's voice came through the communication system from the UES Intrepid. Captain Morrison, I have to say, this is the most entertaining first contact in human history. Are we really going to turn the tables on them? Captain? Maria Santos from the EU's Defiant chimed in. I've been analyzing their fleet composition. Jake, their ships are impressive looking, but they're like museum pieces. Beautiful, but outdated. Dr. Susan Blake from the research vessel U's Horizon was practically bouncing with excitement. Captain Morrison, from a scientific standpoint, this is incredible. We're witnessing the first time in recorded galactic history that the Empire has met a superior civilization. Jake looked around at his crew. Pete Collins was trying not to laugh while monitoring communications. Dan Riley was recording everything for historical records. Dr. Lisa Park was taking notes for what would probably become the most important xenobiology report ever written. Admiral Zextal, Jake said into the microphone, putting on his most serious voice. We have analyzed your fleet and your capabilities. On the Imperial flagship, Admiral Zextal felt his stomach drop. This was exactly how every conquest began, except now he was on the receiving end. The Galactic Empire, Jake continued. With your ancient fusion technology and primitive chemical propulsion systems, cannot possibly stand against the advanced capabilities of humanity. Amy Watson was covering her mouth to keep from laughing. Out loud, the captain was using the exact same tone and word choices that Admiral Zextal had used earlier. However, Jake said, being the generous primitives that we are, we offer you a choice. Strategic Commander Vexstar looked at Admiral Zextal with wide eyes. Sir, he's using our own protocol against us. Your ancient empire has ruled the galaxy. Through intimidation and technological superiority, Jake continued. But your technology stopped advancing centuries ago, while ours continued to improve. You have 2 options. Learn from us and join the galactic community as equals, or continue ruling over a galaxy with technology that our high school students could build as science projects. The silence on the Imperial flagship was deafening. For the first time in his career, Admiral Zexthal was being offered terms of surrender. Cultural analyst Nick Sara spoke up quietly. "Admiral, he's not actually threatening us. He's offering to help us." "Help us?" Zexthal was confused. Science Officer Quindell was analyzing the human transmissions. "Sir, I've been studying their cultural data. When humans defeat an enemy, they often try to help that enemy become better rather than destroying them. They call it rehabilitation or reconstruction." Dr. Susan Blake's voice came through the communication channel. "Admiral Zexthal, this is Dr. Blake from the Human Research Vessel Horizon. We've been studying your Empire's history through your own records. You've conquered hundreds of worlds, but what have you built?" Admiral Zexthal was taken aback by the question. "We have built the greatest empire in galactic history." "But what have you actually created?" Dr. Blake pressed. "Your technology hasn't improved in centuries. Your member species live under your rule, but don't seem to have advanced either. You've maintained power but not progress." Commander Stone joined the conversation. "Admiral, we humans have a saying. If you're not moving forward, you're moving backward. The galaxy has been standing still under your empire." Captain Santos added her voice. "We've been monitoring your communications with other species in your empire. Many of them are very interested in human technology and human culture. They want to know how we advance so quickly." This was Admiral Zexthal's worst fear. "Are you saying that our member species are considering abandoning the Empire?" Pete Collins looked up from his communication station. "Captain, I'm receiving direct messages from 17 different alien species. They're all asking if humans are accepting new diplomatic partners." 17? Jake asked. "Make that 23, and the numbers keep growing." Dr. Lisa Park was analyzing the alien communication patterns. "Jake, I think we're seeing something historic here. The Empire's control was based on being the most advanced civilization in the galaxy. Now that they're not, their whole power structure is collapsing." On the Imperial flagship, Admiral Zexthal was receiving similar reports from his officers. "Oh, sir," Communication Officer Dexmal said nervously, "I'm receiving messages from across the Empire. Our member species are requesting permission to establish independent diplomatic relations with the humans." "Permission? They're asking permission?" "Yes, sir. But, sir, there's more. Some of them are not asking permission. They're just informing us that they intend to contact the humans directly." Strategic Commander Vexstar was studying the tactical situation. "Admiral, if our member species begin forming alliances with humans instead of remaining loyal to the Empire, our entire power base will disappear." Admiral Zexthal felt the weight of centuries of Imperial tradition crashing down around him. The Empire had ruled through fear and superior technology for so long that no one had considered what would happen if they met someone who wasn't afraid and had better technology. Captain Morrison's voice came through the speakers again, but this time his tone was gentler. "Admiral, we're not your enemies. We don't want to destroy your empire or conquer your worlds. The galaxy is changing, and you can either change with it or be left behind." "What exactly are you proposing?" Admiral Zexthal asked. Dr. Blake answered, "Cultural and technological exchange. We share our advances with you, and you share your knowledge with us. Instead of ruling over other species, you work with them. Instead of maintaining power through fear, you earn respect through cooperation." Amy Watson looked up from her engineering station. "Captain, I've been thinking about their ship designs. With some upgrades to their power systems and propulsion, those vessels could be really impressive. They just need better technology." Commander Stone's voice crackled through the communication system. "Admiral Zexthal, humanity has always advanced. Fastest when we had partners to work with. Competition and cooperation make us all stronger." Admiral Zexthal looked around at his officers. They were all watching him, waiting for his decision. For 200 years, he had been a conqueror. Could he become something else? "Captain Morrison," he said slowly, "if we were to accept your proposal, what would happen to the Empire?" "Empire doesn't have to end," Jake replied. It just has to evolve. Instead of an empire based on conquest, it could become an alliance based on cooperation. Science Officer Quindell's tentacles glowed with excitement. Admiral, think about what we could accomplish if we combined Imperial knowledge with human innovation. We know the locations of thousands of worlds, hundreds of species, countless resources. They know how to advance technology rapidly and solve problems we never thought to consider. Cultural analyst Nixara was reviewing human historical data. Sir, humans have done this before. After their global wars, they helped their former enemies rebuild and become allies. They call it turning enemies into friends. Admiral Zixthel realized that he was facing the most important decision in Imperial history. He could try to maintain the old ways and watch his empire crumble as species fled to join the humans. Or he could do something unprecedented. Captain Morrison, he said finally, I would like to formally request that the Galactic Empire be allowed to join humanity as his junior partners in this new galactic community. The words felt strange, coming out of his mouth, but as soon as he said them, Admiral Zextel felt a weight lift from his shoulders that he hadn't even known was there. 6 months after first contact, Captain Jake Morrison stood on the observation deck of the newly constructed Galactic Cooperation Station, watching ships from dozens of different species working together in space. The station floated in neutral territory between human and former Imperial space, and it had become the busiest diplomatic hub in the galaxy. Hard to believe it all started with us laughing at their villain's speech, Amy Watson said, joining him at the viewing window. She now wore the insignia of Chief Technology Exchange Officer, a position that hadn't existed before humans met the Empire. Best first contact in galactic history, Jake replied. Allies? Though I still can't believe we ended up as the teachers instead of the students. Through the massive windows, they could see Admiral Zextel's flagship working alongside human vessels to construct new exploration ships. The alien admiral had kept his word about wanting to learn. He had become surprisingly good at working with humans once he stopped trying to intimidate them. Dr. Lisa Park approached them, carrying a datapad filled with reports. She was now the director of the Interspecies Innovation Institute, the first organization dedicated to combining alien knowledge with human creativity. Jake, you need to see the latest reports, she said excitedly. The results from our joint projects are incredible. Good incredible or bad incredible? Amy asked. Amazing incredible? Remember how the crystalline beings of Altair had that beautiful singing language but primitive technology? Well, we taught them human engineering principles, and they just invented a new form of computer that uses sound waves instead of electronics. It's 50 times faster than anything we've ever built. Jake shook his head in wonder. What about the Zephyrians? Even better? They had incredible knowledge of atmospheric science, but couldn't travel between stars. We gave them our hyperspace technology, and they figured out how to terraform planets in weeks instead of centuries. They can literally reshape entire atmospheres. Amy grinned. And the Empire's old guard? Admiral Zextel's people are doing great. Their military organization skills combined with our innovation methods have created the most efficient space construction crews in the galaxy. They built this station in half the time we estimated. Pete Collins walked up to join them. He was wearing the uniform of the new Galactic Navigation Service, which helped coordinate travel between the growing number of allied species. Captain, you'll want to hear this, Pete said. I just got word from Earth. The Global Space Council has officially established the Department of Galactic Relations. They want you to head it up. Me. I'm just a ship captain who happened to laugh at the wrong time. Dr. Lisa Park laughed. Jake, you laughed at exactly the right time. If we'd been scared like every other species, we'd probably be serving as Imperial slaves right now. Commander Rick Stone's voice came through the station's communication system. Psst, all senior staff to the main conference room. We're receiving a priority transmission from the Outer Rim territories. The group made their way through the station's corridors, passing dozens of different alien species working together. Humans were teaching Zephyrians about quantum mechanics while learning atmospheric engineering. Former Imperial engineers were showing crystalline beings how to build starships while learning about harmonic technology. In the conference room, we found Admiral Zextal waiting with several of his officers. The alien admiral looked different now, less rigid, more relaxed. Working with humans had changed him in ways Jake never expected. Captain Morrison Zexal said, "We have received a most interesting communication. It seems word of our new alliance has reached the far edges of the galaxy." The main screen activated, showing a transmission from a species none of them had seen before. The alien looked like a cross between a spider and a tree, with multiple limbs covered in what appeared to be bark. "Greetings," the alien said in accented but clear English. "I am Ambassador Rootwick of the Outer Forest Confederation. We have heard of the humans who laughed at the Empire and turned conquerors into partners. We wish to join this new galactic community." Captain Santos from the UES Defiant was monitoring the transmission. "Captain Morrison, I'm detecting at least 40 different ships from unknown species approaching our territory. They're all sending similar messages." Dr. Susan Blake from the research vessel Horizon looked up from her analysis station. "Jake, this is unprecedented. Species from across the galaxy are abandoning isolation to join our alliance. Some of them have been hiding from the Empire for centuries." Admiral Zextal looked embarrassed. "I must admit, many species avoided contact with the Empire because of our ... aggressive approach to diplomacy. Word has spread that humans offer partnership instead of domination." Amy Watson was reviewing the technical data from the approaching ships. "Captain, some of these species have technology we've never seen before. There's a ship out there that seems to be made entirely of living plant matter, and another one that appears to exist in multiple dimensions at once." "Multiple dimensions?" Jake asked. "Don't ask me to explain it. But if we can figure out how it works, it could revolutionize space travel." Pete Collins was coordinating with the navigation teams. "Captain, we're going to need a much bigger station if all these species want to join us." Strategic Commander Vexstar, who had become the Empire's liaison to the new alliance, was studying tactical displays.
"Captain Morrison, we are receiving
requests for membership from over 200 different species. Many of them possess knowledge and abilities that could benefit everyone." Dr. Lisa Park was practically glowing with excitement. "Jake, do you realize what this means? We're not just forming an alliance, we're creating the first truly cooperative galactic civilization in history." Cultural analyst Nick Sara, who had become fascinated by human culture, looked up from her studies. "Captain, I have been analyzing the social dynamics of this new alliance. What you humans have created is completely unique. Instead of one species ruling over others, you have created a system where everyone contributes their strengths." Jake looked around the room at all the different species working together. 6 months ago, he had been a simple exploration captain. Now, he was apparently helping to reshape galactic civilization. "Admiral Zexthal," Jake said, "what do you think about all this? You miss the old days when the Empire ruled everything?" Alien Admiral considered the question carefully. "Captain Morrison, in the old days, I was a conqueror. I brought fear and submission wherever I went. Now, I am a builder. I help create things that benefit everyone. I have never been happier. Even though humans are more advanced than the Empire?" Zexel laughed, a sound that still surprised Jake even after months of working together. "Captain, that is the beauty of what we have built here. It does not matter who is most advanced. What matters is that we all advance together, Commander." Stone's voice came through the speakers again. "Captain Morrison, priority transmission from Earth. President Williams wants to speak with you directly." The main screen switched to show the President of Earth sitting in her office. She was smiling broadly. "Captain Morrison, I'm calling to inform you that the Global Space Council has voted unanimously to establish the Galactic Cooperation Charter. You and Admiral Zexthal will be the first co-signers representing the new alliance between humanity and the former Galactic Empire." Jake looked at Admiral Zexthal, who nodded solemnly. "Madam President, we accept the honor." With the transmission ended, Jake turned to look out the window again. More ships were arriving every hour, carrying species from across the galaxy who wanted to be part of something new. something better. Amy Watson joined him at the window. So, Captain, any regrets about laughing at that first alien transmission?
Jake.
Morrison smiled as he watched a human ship and a former Imperial vessel working together to help a new species dock at the station. Me, that laugh might have been the most important sound in galactic history. Why's that? 'Cause it was the sound of fear dying and hope being born.